My name's Les Ross. I'm a town planning consultant and I'm working for a developer who's bringing forward a battery energy storage scheme on a site near Limavady. This video is part of a public consultation process which is happening before the planning application is lodged. It's an opportunity for you to find out about the proposal and to provide some feedback on it. At the end of this video, I'll provide some details of how you can get in touch with us and provide your feedback. Some of you will have watched a video that I posted in June 2021 last year where I introduced this proposal. We've actually changed the proposal to a certain extent from that time. The site boundary has changed a little and the technology that we're using has changed also. This video brings you right up to date on what our present thinking is. We are getting close to the time when we should be submitting a planning application, so we're looking for your feedback by the 20th of April, please. So without further ado, let's just refresh our memories on where the site itself is. So this first image shows an aerial photograph of the wider area. The urban area of Limavady is fairly evident on the screen there, and I've marked up the town centre in the top left of your picture. I've also marked up the Ballyquin Road and the Edenmore Road and the Ballyveln Road, and I've marked the location of the site with a yellow dot. The next image shows the site a bit closer in. This plan image again shows the Ballyquin, Edenmore Roads and the Ballyveln Road, and I've outlined the site red. Okay, in this next image we've zoomed a lot closer in. The site's outlined red and the Ballyveln Road's running across the centre of your screen. You can see that the site is part of an agricultural field and it's right beside the existing NIE substation, which is just to the right of the red area there in the image. And you can see the local houses, the local development and around the Edenmore crossroads. It's just worth pointing out that the shape of the site has changed from before, and you can see that the site is now tucked in closer to the existing substation rather than across the frontage of the road. So this next image shows the proposed site layout, and I'm going to come back to that in a moment, but you can see that it's a long rectangular shape consistent with the shape of the existing NIE substation. The access is taken off the Ballyveln Road, and we're proposing basically a compound that's got pieces of electricity kit inside it, and we're proposing hedging around the site, and there'll actually be a security fence around the site, pretty much like the existing NIE substation. At this stage, we'll just take a step back and talk about why the battery energy storage facility is required. The grid is based on a number of large power stations with high voltage electricity running out from those and then being stepped down at NIE substations around the country. And the voltage is progressively stepped down until it gets to a level where it can be fed into the homes and businesses around the country. With the advent of large-scale renewable schemes coming onto the system, particularly wind and solar, you have a different type of electricity generation which is intermittent, and that means that you need some large-scale energy storage on the system, and batteries are one way of doing that. Not only do they store electricity, but they also stabilise the grid. So if you want to have a modern grid with good levels of stability, batteries are an essential part of it. I've been involved with a few sites for battery energy storage, and a couple of those actually have been built now, and they're already helping to provide a more resilient grid, a more reliable, more steady electricity supply. They help us to generate our own power within the country rather than relying on imports from abroad of coal or oil or gas, and they help us to meet the targets in terms of climate change. Basically, they help us to keep the lights on, and they'll also help to reduce energy costs in the longer term. So battery storage is an essential part of modernising the grid, and Limavady happens to be an excellent place for battery energy storage because you're out at the end of the grid where there are high levels of renewable energy, mainly in the form of wind energy, coming onto the system. Battery energy storage systems are generally built right beside those existing NIE substations, and there is one there at Ballyvellan Road. So a site next door to that is the absolute ideal, optimal place for a battery energy storage system. We looked for sites around the local area, but this site just stood out as the absolute best, the optimal site, because it's well integrated into the local landscape. It's not immediately beside any houses, so it doesn't affect residential amenity, and it's in a small depression or a dip in the landscape, which means it's hardly visible from the surroundings. And also there's good road frontage, and it means that there's easy access to get the components in and out. And it's just the sort of place where you would expect this type of development, because it's adjoining the large NIE substation that's already there. So basically it's an excellent place. We have a team working on the proposal, which includes technical experts in terms of the battery technology and the health and safety end of things, the drainage issues, the noise issues, the ecology issues, and we've been out talking to people prior to the application to make sure that we have a good, robust scheme put together. As I said, we have changed the technology during the process. The older types of battery energy storage schemes were actually containerized into big 40-foot shipping containers. That has moved on quite a bit over the last couple of years, a very short period of time. And this scheme now uses a slightly different technology where you have much smaller battery storage cabinets which are laid out around the site. This next image shows what the battery cabinets look like. There's about 330 of these arranged on the site. So these are about 1.3 meters wide by 2.3 meters tall. They're pretty small items, and they contain the batteries. And it's a lithium iron phosphate battery. You'll find a lot more information about all of this within the planning application documents, but I'm not going to go through all of that right now. I just want to show you what a typical cabinet looks like. This next image shows one of the transformer units that would sit within the site as well. So you can see they're fairly neat, unobtrusive types of kit, the sort of thing that you would see in any type of electrical compound, such as the NIE compound that's next door to it. That's what it all looks like. The next image shows how this is all arranged. So this is just a screenshot where I've gone in a little bit closer to the site layout drawing. And all of the small boxes there show how the cabinets would be arranged around the site in a very orderly way. So if we go back to the image of the layout of the whole site again, maybe it makes a little bit more sense now. The bottom half of the site is where all the batteries are laid out. Those two long rectangles are concrete plinths upon which the batteries and those transformers and the bits of kit are sitting. And then the northern part of the bit of the site along the edge of the road, that's where you have your access point. You have a compound there for vehicles coming in and turning and setting down. And on the eastern side there, or on the right hand side of the image, you can see there's a couple of buildings. Those are the electricity switch rooms that are used by NIE and by the battery operator themselves. There's a control room, a toilet facility for staff who are turning up, and the transformers on the site. The electricity would go back and forth from the NIE substation to those transformers via underground lines. So you can see that there's plenty of space there in that northern bit of the site for all the manoeuvring and so on that you'd expect to happen on a site like this. Now it's worth saying, normally this site would be unmanned, just like the NIE substation. People would be turning up periodically to do general maintenance and so on the site, but that would be very infrequent. The site itself would be managed remotely, including by Sony, the grid operator, from operations elsewhere in Northern Ireland. Within the site, there's some lighting. That lighting would only be turned on when somebody was there on the site in the evening time, so very, very infrequently. It'd really be just sort of an emergency occasion. Someone had to go to the site on a winter's evening or something like that. It's going to be very irregular. There would be a security fence around the site. There is CCTV cameras, as you'd expect, just to monitor the site, and those would be turned on typically, I expect, by a movement sensor or whatever. And there are hedges proposed around the site just to help to screen it and integrate it into the countryside. Basically a fairly typical layout that you'd expect, and a site that would become hidden and be very discreet in a very short period of time. So that brings you up to date on our proposals for the battery energy storage scheme at Limavady. I hope that was helpful. You can get in contact with us. The details are on the screen now. With any questions or any comments, telephone number, the address and the email address. Our office address has changed since June last year, but the other details are the same. You can pause the video there if you need to write any of that down, but it just remains for me to say thank you very much for watching. I look forward to hearing from you. All the very best.